Hello dear students, so here we are going to start the new chapter, and that is Newton's laws of motion for the NEET students. The students who are preparing for the NEET 2022, I am sure it will be highly beneficial for them. Okay, so I am sure that you have learned the Newton's laws of motion in your class 11th and in detail. So let's get started. So the first topic is what? That's Newton's laws of motion. Here it's written Newton's laws of motion. First of all, this Newton's laws of motion, it's classified into 3 different chapters. Okay, Newton's laws of motion first, in which we will be discussing the Newton's laws of motion, and Newton's laws of second, that's friction chapter, and उसके बाद है बेटा Newton's third law of motion, और उसमें है circular motion. In that we'll be discussing circular motion. Okay, great. अब यहाँ ध्यान रखो बेटा. So let's get started. So first of all, this inertia and the first law of motion, this will stay as a home assignment for you. उतना ज़्यादा कॉम्प्लिकेट नहीं है, आपने क्लास 10th में ऑलरेडी पढ़ा है, आपने क्लास 9th और क्लास 11th में आपने ऑलरेडी पढ़ा है. सो दिस विल स्टे एज अ होम असाइनमेंट फॉर यू, दिस इनर्शिया एंड द फर्स्ट लॉ ऑफ मोशन. ओके, सो लेट्स स्टार्ट विद दिस लीनियर मोमेंटम, एंड देन देयर विल बी न्यूटन सेकंड लॉ ऑफ मोशन, एंड देन उसके बाद होगा इम्पल्स, और उसके बाद होगा इम्पल्स मोमेंटम थ्योरम. ओके, सो लेट्स स्टार्ट linear momentum. First of all, how we define linear momentum? So linear momentum is simply, it is denoted by P. It is a vector quantity, so it is denoted by P like this. So momentum, linear momentum is mathematically defined like this. It is equal to the product of mass and velocity. Since the vector quantity, so its direction will be same as its velocity. Simple, mass into velocity. Or we can say that it is a motion pulsed by an object. Okay, but this is the exact definition, that it's simply the product of the mass and the velocity. Or जो momentum है, that is a vector quantity whose direction is same as that of the velocity. All right. Next, some important points here. Some important points. Point number first is, what is the units? What are the units and dimensions of the linear momentum? Okay, so let me write it down here. What are the units and dimensions of linear momentum? So units and dimensions. Units and dimensions. Simple. जो इसका SI unit है बेटा, SI unit of the mass is kilogram. You know that. SI unit of the velocity is meter per second. तो इसका SI unit जो होगा, that will be kilogram meter per second. Simple. Kilogram meter per second. All right. और जो इसका dimensional formula होगा बेटा, that will be dimensional formula will be simply m1 l1 t minus 1. m1 l1 t minus 1. All right. Or its dimensions are 1 comma 1 comma minus 1. Okay, great. Next, जो important point है बेटा, that is simply, is it a scalar quantity or a vector quantity? Obviously, it's a vector quantity whose direction will be same as that of the velocity. So let me write it down for here. So this momentum, this P is a vector quantity. It's a vector quantity. Okay, it's a vector quantity. ठीक है ना बेटा? So we are done with the momentum. इतना आपको, this is more than enough for the NEET. Okay. So next, let's switch to another topic. जो हमारा next topic है बेटा, that's Newton's second law of motion. Highly important, very important. So you'll focus on this. Newton's second law of motion. Okay. So what is the statement of Newton's second law of motion? The statement of Newton's second law of motion is like this, that the force acting on a particle is directly proportional to the rate of change of linear momentum. ठीक है ना बेटा? So let me write it down here, that the force acting on a particle is directly proportional to rate of change of linear momentum, that is dP divided by dt. All right. Or the rate of change of momentum with respect to time. Then from here, what we can write is this: F is equal to simply dP by dt. So there is constant of proportionality, which is equal to 1. So it's simply equal to what? That's equal to dP divided by dt. dP divided by dt. ठीक है ना बेटा? So this is your first law of motion. Okay. अब इस momentum के बदले हम क्या लिख सकते हैं बेटा? We can write down the equation like this as well. This also equal to d by dt of mass into velocity, because the momentum is in turn equal to mass multiplied by velocity. Great, perfect. Then here what I can do is this, I can use here this product rule. ठीक है ना बेटा? I can use the product rule. तो force आ जाएगा बेटा ये, it will be equal to m multiplied by differentiation of velocity with respect to time, dv by dt, plus v multiplied by dm by dt. dm by dt. ठीक है ना बेटा? So the equation number first, equation number second and equation number third, they are equivalent. तो ये हमारे पास क्या बेटा? Force is equal to dp by dt, rate of change of momentum with respect to time. Then p के बदले हमने क्या लिखा? Mass into velocity. Then we have used the product rule here, so m multiplied by dv by dt plus v into dm by dt. Great, perfect. Then what I can write down is this. अब यहाँ ध्यान रखो बेटा. So this dv by dt is what? It is rate of change of velocity with respect to time, and you know that the rate of change of velocity with respect to time is simply what? That's acceleration. तो ये equation क्या बनेगी बेटा? It will be F is equal to m multiplied by a plus v multiplied by dm by dt. dm by dt. ठीक है ना बेटा? So this actually what? This is in principle the Newton's second law of motion. This is the Newton's second law of motion. That force is called mass into acceleration plus velocity multiplied by rate of change of mass with respect to time. ठीक है ना बेटा? Okay. Now in Newton's laws of motion, almost all the problems, like 95% of the problems, wherein we will assume that the mass of the particle stays constant. Okay, when the mass stays constant, so here I will write it down that the mass of the particle stays constant. When the mass stays constant, so in that very case, this dm by dt will be obviously equal to 0. ठीक है ना बेटा? because differentiation of the constant is equal to 0. Now put it here, so this term will vanish. तो force क्या आ जाएगा बेटा? Force will be simply equal to m multiplied by a. ठीक है ना बेटा? Clear to you? So that means this is our equation number first and this is our equation number second. But this equation number second is not a generalized equation. ये तब true होगी बेटा when the mass of the particle remains constant. Okay? Otherwise this is the more generalized equation. Okay? But as I already said that in the 95% of the problems in Newton's laws of motion, we will be assuming that the mass of the particle remains constant. ठीक है ना बेटा? And if for example the mass is variable, then the equation number first can be used, and there are a few problems where in the mass of the particle is variable. For example, there is a rocket propulsion problem. तो उसमें जो mass होता है बेटा of the rocket, that will not remain constant, that is variable. So in that very case we can use the equation number first. Later on you will see that how we'll do the problems on this. Okay? ठीक. Now next what we'll be doing is that we'll be solving the examples on this. But before solving the examples, let me introduce to you what we called as the impulse. ठीक है ना बेटा? What we call as the impulse and what we mean by impulse momentum theorem. All right, okay. So let me first of all summarize this. तो यहाँ आप ध्यान दीजिए बेटा. So what we have is this force is equal to dp by dt. ठीक है ना बेटा? And this force equal to dp by dt is called as instantaneous force. It's called instantaneous force. And graphically it will be in turn equal to tan theta. It will be equal to tan theta. So this equation will give the instantaneous force. So let me write it down here. It gives what? It gives instantaneous force. And what we mean by instantaneous force? Instantaneous का force का मतलब ये है बेटा that it gives the force on the particle right now at any particular instant of time. What is the force? That will be given by this equation. Okay. The next equation number second, हमारे पास है बेटा average force. If for example you want to calculate average force, that will be obviously equal to delta p, change in momentum, divided by time taken for the change. Delta p divided by delta t. So this equation gives you what? It gives you the average force. It gives you average force. ठीक है ना बेटा? Now if for example in the question the force is given to you as a function of time, and then you are supposed to calculate from there what will be the change in momentum. ठीक है ना बेटा? So let's try to calculate that as well. ठीक है बेटा? From this very equation, from the first equation, what you can write down is this, that this dp is equal to f multiplied by dt. ठीक है ना बेटा? जो ये equation है, this equation gives you actually what is the change in momentum when the force is f for time dt. ठीक है बेटा? Now integrate both sides, so this will be integration of dp will be equal to integration of f dt. Integration of f dt. Then here we are, integration of dp is simply equal to what? ये किसके बराबर है बेटा? डेल्टा p के बराबर. This will be equal to integration of f dt. ठीक है बेटा? Integration of dp is equal to delta p because lower limit होगा p1, upper limit होगा p2. p2 minus p1 will be equal to delta p. So that's here it's equal to the area under the f versus t curve. This is equal to area under the f versus t curve. ठीक है ना बेटा? So how many equations we have? Equation number first, equation number second, and then thereafter we have the equation number third. ठीक है बेटा? Equation number first gives you what? It gives you instantaneous force, so f is equal to rate of change of linear momentum. Equation number second gives you the average force, which is equal to the delta p divided by delta t, and the equation number third gives you what? It gives you the change in momentum of the particle. If for example अगर आपके पास force दिया गया होगा बेटा, so this equation is that equation. Okay. Moreover, we'll be doing some graphical examples on that, and you will see later on that the graphical questions are really asked in the NEET as well. Okay. ठीक है ना बेटा? So let's switch to another topic. Another subtopic is there, and that subtopic is what? वो हमारे पास बेटा है, that is impulse and impulse momentum theorem. ठीक है बेटा? Okay. So first of all, what is an impulse? What is impulse? होता क्या है बेटा impulse? It's a vector quantity denoted by I. ठीक? तो इसके लिए आपको पता क्या होना चाहिए पहले? First of all, आपको ये पता होना चाहिए what is an impulsive force. Impulsive force is actually that force whose magnitude is very large, जिसका magnitude बहुत ज़्यादा होता है, and which exists for very small time. Like for example, the hammering of a nail. When you hammer a nail, you exert a very huge force, but the force exists only for very small time. That's called the impulsive force. Or for example, hitting a cricket ball. When you hit the cricket ball, you apply a large force on the ball for a very small time. So the force is large, time is very small. In the same way, for example, kicking a football. When you kick a football, the force you apply on the football is very large, and the time for which that force is exerted exists for very small time, and so such force are called as what? They are called as the impulsive force. ठीक है बेटा? Now how we define an impulse? So simply impulse is defined as, if you want to define the impulse is defined as the product of force into time. Rather it is defined like this. It is defined as the average force multiplied with the delta t. average force multiplied by delta t. What is the force exerted on a particle and for how much time that force is applied? The product of these two is called the impulse. And obviously ये किसके बराबर होगा? This average force, you know that it's equal to delta p divided by delta t multiplied by this delta t. ठीक है ना बेटा? Because average force is equal to delta p divided by delta t. This term and this term is going to cancel, so it is in turn equal to delta p. That's it. This is the equation that's highly important for us. ठीक है ना बेटा? So impulse is equal to what? It's equal to the product of average force multiplied with the time taken. Average force के लिए बेटा हमने equation वहाँ पे substitute की. Then this delta t and delta t is going to cancel. Then we have this that is equal to delta p. Great, perfect. Okay, now we have one more equation, and that equation is like this: that the impulse of a force is equal to change in momentum, which is delta p. But you know that this delta p is in turn equal to integration of f dt. Okay, a good number of questions are asked on this very equation, so it is really important. Later on you will see that when we will be doing the questions on this. All right, okay, तो यहाँ तक हमने क्या पढ़ा? Point number 1, momentum, simply mass into velocity, done. Number 2, Newton's second law of motion. And what's Newton's second law of motion? That is force is equal to rate of change of momentum. तो वहाँ हमने P के बदले m into v लिखा. Then we explain that equation. Okay. Then finally what we have is there are a couple of equations like instantaneous force क्या होता है. Then what is the average force? What is the delta P equal to? And then this impulse. Okay. So we have discussed all this. Clear? Okay. Let me revise it quickly for you. So first of all, it's like this. Then this linear momentum is simply mass into velocity. You know this. Okay, done. Mass into velocity. The next is Newton's second law of motion. It's rate of change of momentum with respect to time. Momentum के बदले हमने लिखा mass into velocity. Use product rule here. Then this is a generalized equation. Then a special case, if the mass remains constant, F is equal to m multiplied by a. All right, great, perfect. ठीक है ना बेटा? Next ये वाला इक्वेशन है बेटा. Okay, so this instantaneous force is equal to dp by dt. Average force इसके बराबर होता है बेटा. Delta p will be equal to this integration of f dt, and that's in turn equal to area. Great. Okay. Next is what? Next is this impulse, and the impulse momentum theorem. Impulse is equal to product of average force multiplied with delta t, in turn equal delta p. That's in turn equal this. Okay. Before doing the problems, what I will next point is this. जो हमारा next point है बेटा वो ये है. What are the units and dimensions? Let me write it here. Units and dimensions of force. Units and dimensions of force वो आपको पता होनी चाहिए. Units and dimensions of force. ठीक है ना बेटा? Okay. There are two different types of units of the force. Number 1 we call it absolute units, and number 2 we call it gravitational units. Absolute units and gravitational units. So let me write it down here. It's absolute units, and what? And here it is gravitational units. Gravitational units, absolute units and gravitational units. Great, perfect. Okay, so what is the SI unit here? Here let me write it down, SI unit, and here it is CGS unit in both the absolute units as well as gravitational units. Great, perfect. अब यहाँ पे ध्यान रखो बेटा. So what is the SI unit of the force? SI unit of force, you know that it's equal, it's Newton. What's it? Newton. Then what about the CGS unit of the force? You know that it's equal to dyne. And what is the relation between them? 1 Newton is equal to 10 raised to the power 5 dyne. 10 raised to the power 5 dyne. 1 Newton is equal to 10 raised to the power 5 dyne. ठीक है बेटा? For mathematical calculation, you must memorize this equation. Then gravitational units. What is the SI unit? In this very case, that's kilogram force, kgf. Kilogram force. ठीक है बेटा? And what about the CGS unit? That is gram force. That's gram force. Kilogram force and gram force. Then you must know the conversion factor as well. 1 kilogram force. क्यों हुआ? कर स्टॉप आता था.